how do we turbocharge collaboration on our ECC? How do we turbocharge automation? And finally, how do we turbocharge an application? All right. So do you know, guys know Jack Welch? GE, right? He's famous for what is he famous for? Every year, what did he do with the top 5% of the people in GE? He promoted them, right? What did he do with the bottom 5% of the people? He fired them. So he's a very, very famous business guy. And he said that if the rate of change on the outside your company, exceeds the rate of change inside your company, the end is in sight, right? So now, you know, South African companies, we have a problem. Change is happening all the time. And in the time that I've been working with SAP, that is since the Y2K. Those of you who know what the Y2K is, know how old I am. Those of you who don't know, there's also know how old I am. But since then, you know, progression has been slow, and then all of a sudden, you know, when SAP started that HANA database, it just flew, and things just I cannot keep up anymore, and I try to be on top of things. But the rate of change is relentless, things are happening. And companies in South Africa have many challenges. You know, I don't need to tell you about it. So you don't always have the budget, you don't always have the time, you don't always have the things to do it. So some may say, let's go revolution and, you know, jump into S4, but others may say, you know, my evolution is a little bit more of my game. So let's try and see if we can embrace innovation gradually. You know, when you do an S4 move, the thing that always catches me is there is mandatory innovation. funny sort of phrase. So now the question is, now we've got the ECC little car there, yeah, I like it. How do we get this thing to go a little bit quicker and keep up with the brand new cars next to us, and at least stay in the game? You know, how do we do that? So I'm gonna today just share with you 3 platform-based strategies. Now, there's going to be some technical stuff. I'm going to try to keep that not too technical. Because obviously you can get access to all of this. But the big thing here is that SAP understands that the world is changing. They also understand that not everybody can access technology at the same rate, at the same time, and consume it, and so forth. So they started the business technology platform. It's actually a lot of stuff in there. There's not only 3 tools in there. It's like a whole toolbox of stuff. But today we're just going to focus on 3 things. So if you look at that, what you will see is you have the app development, you have the automation, the integration, the data analytics, and the AI. So all of those make up this little toolbox that I'm going to discuss today. So this is going to be the turbo that I'm going to slap onto our ERP to give it a little bit extra legs. The nice thing about that turbo is when you buy our brand new car, we can still put that turbo on the brand new car as well. You know, it's not obsolete, it's something that can evolve continuously with your ERP. So why is it relevant? So SAP, we had a big conference with them the other day, and they basically said 20% of the growth, or BTP, the Business Technology Platform, will have a 20% growth in South Africa. With GDP of 1% growth, 20% means this is a niche area, this is an area where things are going to be happening. And the thing is, I did previous talks in this conference, and I always tried to see how can I give the customers ways to get more for their rand, right? How can you leverage that little investment that you have a little bit more, get stuff for free and things like that. So if you look at my previous talks about free things you can get in ECC in the old days, and last year was about how to get ROI for the move and those sort of things. So looking at that platform, so app development we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the automation portion and the integration. The data analytics, so SAP Analytics Cloud falls in there. DataSphere, which is a big old BW replacement. And then AI, obviously, which where everybody ultimately, I guess, will do AI. So do you guys think you used AI today? You did. How did you think your GPS knew how to tell you to get to Sandton and enjoy the lovely free-flowing traffic? Right? That's AI. It's artificially thinking of all the different routes all the time, thinking of the traffic, what's going to happen, predicting, and saying, if you leave now, you're going to be there at 9 o'clock, the traffic at that place will be like this, so I predict that I think you need to take that. And then all of a sudden it says, there's a new route, you can save 5 minutes, and you end up losing 10 minutes. But if you think of AI is already part of our life, right? We don't know it, but everything we do, there's a little bit of AI in it already. and it's going to become a much bigger challenge for us. Anyway, so business technology platform, that's what I want to talk to you about. So, collaboration. So, this is really a very interesting topic for me. Because if you think of companies, what happens nowadays, some oak decides, hey, I want a CRM system, and then he goes and buys Salesforce, or he goes and buys Zoho, or something like that. In the meantime, you've got a little ERP running, and now he wants customers, and then he wants materials, and then he wants purchase prices, and so forth. And then just when you get that guy sort of to download and upload, and whatever, the next guy comes, hey, I bought a new maintenance system. You know, because it's all cloud, it's all subscription, the barrier to entry is very, 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 very easy. So how do we get those things to speak to each other? And the two ways that we do that is with enterprise application integration, which means something in the business or business to business. So your customers, I always say, integration with your customers, integration in general is a little bit like drugs for companies, because once you start integrating, you just want to do more. You know, you can't stop because you see the benefits that comes out of it. SAP always had these integration tools. I did integration in the 2000s with ALE and iDocs and Barclays and web services. But you know, we need to do it in a safe way. Nowadays, cybercrime is a big challenge. So what we need is an accessible tool. And when you think of integration, what do? I've got a little message with a couple of fields on it. I'm going to give it to you. You know, you can't read it. I've got to put a mapping in there and say, okay, when I say plant or whatever, you know, actually means site in your world. And we need to do that mapping and transformation and then give it to him so he knows what to do on his site and things. So we need a tool that can connect. So connecting means FTP or HTTPS or whatever the connection parameter is, go and fetch that message and then connect, map, transform, and manage. Now, this brings me to the three lies, biggest lies in the world. You know what they are, right? The first biggest lie, the most people know what a check is the check is in the mail. That's the biggest lie. The second biggest thing is
the stock's in the warehouse.
Exactly. The second biggest lie is that dress looks lovely on you, darling.
Sure.
Sorry to say that. And the third biggest lie is we integrate seamlessly with SAP. I can tell you, for every 10 times I've heard that, it's been true once. No vendor integrates, you know. When I get to them and say, so how do you do it? No, you just tell us the table you need to put it in. So no, it doesn't work like that. You need to go through the application layer. You can't just sneak into the database. But anyway, so how do we make sure that we do secure connections? So the question is, that was the what, so why? So it's becoming a prerequisite for businesses, right? Integrating is something that you need to do. Your customer's saying, listen, I want to run just in time with you. So I want to know when that truck leaves your warehouse and it can be received on my warehouse. How are you going to do that except for phoning him and emailing him? You're going to integrate, right? And there's many of these examples. I'm going to give you one just now. You cannot use the ERP as a platform to integrate. You can. You can also use your BMW to tow a plow, but it's not really the right thing to do, right? It's risky. You need something that is secure in a demilitarized zone that you can actually control and that people can connect to without, you know, touching on the security of it. So why do businesses do it? Like I said, it's drugs. You can do things quicker, more accurately. You can save labor. You can apply your people to things that actually adds value. And once you connect to a customer, you've got that, right? Because it takes some effort to connect the two systems. So now you're connecting to Mr. X, your customer. If he wants to leave you, he's got to go to some other guy and start that whole integration process again. So there's like a little bit of a dependency there, you know, in the best possible way. So let me give you some examples. So we recently went live with a retail customer in the US on private cloud. They had 30 integrations. 30, not messages, systems that they integrated to. Now you think like that's crazy, you know? But then you start looking at them. There's a tax engine, there's a couple of banks, they integrate to 5 different industry collaboration hubs to send their sales orders, because they were selling retail, so they need to connect to Walmart, they need to connect to JCPenney's, or if they're still alive, I don't know. Then they had retail, so there is like a whole thing that makes the products, they need to connect to that. Then they had like a CRM system, a couple of e-commerce websites, And before you open your eyes, that whole thing is connected. And all of them, needs to speak to each other. So the biggest question in integration is always, what's the biggest question? Who's the boss? Right? In integration, there can only be one boss. You cannot have many bosses. You can't say, I own the customer, and you own the customer, and you own the customer, because then we're going to have a very broken customer, right? So the customer record is something that is centrally owned, for example. So other examples is with logistics track and trace. Nowadays, you can track the container, you can track the truck, you can see when it lands, you can prepare for it, you can anticipate. So I guess we saw when we were looking at COVID, what did we realize? Supply chains are brittle, right? All of a sudden, the truck doesn't arrive anymore. Why? Because the guys got COVID, or the truck broke down, or the company went bust. So, as supply chain people, we need to be reactive. We need to be able to say, this ship is going to be late. If that ship is late, I'm not going to be able to manufacture this because my one missing component is there, therefore I need to switch my manufacturing now. And we can only make those decisions if we get information in real time. In the old days, we used to send long emails, and then if Susan or Johnny or Tabu, whoever remembers to put it into the system, then we know that when the thing is going to come. But integration takes all of that out of the thing. E-commerce integration, more and more of my customers are looking at integrating their e-commerce with the ERP. Why? Because now I'm selling my shoes or whatever, and I say you can get them, and then I go into stock and say, oh, I don't have any. I already sold it by another channel. And with channels, you've got wholesale and retail and all sorts of other channels. So customers are wanting more real-time integration between the systems, so they know what's happening. And then I've put some references in the document. The IBC recently said the next revolution is going to be event-driven automation. And that's a form of integration. So our business event will drive an automated action on your ERP. So for example, if the container is loaded on the truck, it will automatically create an appointment in your warehouse when the truck will arrive, and that will trigger a manufacturing order that will be 2 days later, those sort of things. So events from other event brokers will actually help us drive these sort of things. Now you may ask, so how come I like integration so much? So let me tell you a little story. A couple of years ago, my brother-in-law, he was in IT, he was doing Mapix, or BPix or something like that, it's a mainframe system. And he was working for the government, and they said, sorry, your contract's over, and that's all you need. But he's quite a clever guy. So what happens when you have a problem to solve? He came to me and said, listen, in the SAP world, isn't there something I can do? I think it's a long road for you. So when you have a big problem, what do? You go on the dam, on your yacht, with your battery, 2 laptops, some liquid refreshments, something to braai on your little boat, and then you contemplate what solutions can come up, right? The big thing about being on the yacht in the middle of the dam, nobody can escape, right? The next morning the ferry can come and pick you up, but until the next morning you got time to solve the problem. So I said to him, you know what? Our customers mentioning, we're doing a project, our customers mentioning, how do we integrate, can we integrate your customers because they want to? I said, let me write a white paper for the customer. And then SAP has this free technology for integration. I'll give you the manual, and I'll give you the software, you figure it out, and let's see if we can do it. 15 years ago, and we've been doing integration projects non-stop since then. We must have done almost 500 of integration scenarios, anything to anything, way bridges, e-commerce systems, shop floor systems, maintenance systems, you name it, to an ERP. And there's a lot of things we've learned through this, but what I want to show you, this is what SAP gives you as a tool to make this happen. Nowadays, it's a lot easier. So if you look at this integration suite, on the right-hand side, you see who are interested in your integration. So governments, your trading partners, events, data hubs, AI platforms. And then on the left-hand side, you can look at what are the things that we are integrating into. SAP apps, custom apps, third-party apps, software as a service. And this is the solution that SAP offers. So they've got a lot of out-of-the-box integration, so things like there's a Salesforce connector. So that's actually one time they don't lie about, you can do it seamlessly if you use a connector. And then inside that little box of SAP Integration Suite is actual application integration. There's API management. API is application programming interfaces, so things where you put some data in, it does a thing. And then business-to-business integration, so B2B, as you know, is becoming quite a big thing. Event-driven architecture, that next big wave that's going to come. Regulatory compliance. Can you think of an example of that? Let me give you an example. In countries like Mexico, for example, you cannot issue an invoice until the government gives you an invoice number. So you actually have to connect to the government, get the invoice number, and then only can you issue the invoice. And Brazil has got even crazier stuff and so forth. So SAP has got a whole compliance layer that manages some of these idiosyncrasies. But there's countries in Africa that does it as well. So for example, Zambia has got a similar system. And then guided integration practices, just helping you to do the best practices for integrating. And you'll see there's some accelerators. Now because it's an SAP product, it knows how to speak to SAP, right? So you get other integration hubs, but they're not necessarily made to speak to SAP that well. So that's integration. My message is, if you are already integration, do more. Integrating, do more. If you're not integrating, there's big opportunities. There's lots of systems out there doing their own thing, and your information is your company's biggest assets, right? So if you put that information in systems that you cannot extract that information from, you're losing an opportunity to optimize the business, to see trends, to use AI, right, to figure out what's happening. So the big thing here is make sure that you can get all those things connected. The value is much more than the effort. It's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. Because once you integrate, the funny thing about integration, it either works or it doesn't. When it works, it just continues working unless you fiddle with it. But for the most part, we've had integrations. One of the first integrations we did was between SAP ECC and Business One, which is like a small little thing with its own little connector. Those interfaces are running now, today still, 12 years later. And they're getting value from it every time. So it is an investment that keeps on giving you return on that investment. Because the alternative is they would have to employ somebody to go and sit there and type the stuff, and he or she makes mistakes, and then they leave, and nobody knows how to do it. So integration is really the first big turbocharge that I want to share with you. Do you guys have any questions before I move on? All right, cool. So now we get to automation. So obviously, you guys know about robotic process automation, and that is the next thing that I want to share. Remember, I'm sharing things that are, I would say, accessible and affordable for South African customers. So what is robotic process automation? It's technology that pretends that they are human, and they can actually do things with software with a high volume, and they can do repeatable tasks. So in other words, they can be you, but a better version of you that doesn't need sick leave, that doesn't go on holiday, that can continue to do monotonous jobs automatically, and there's attended and unattended parts. And what do? They log into applications, they enter data, they calculate, they complete tasks, they do all sorts of stuff that you would have been doing if you were that fast, and if you never took and they can do that 24/7. So you can have a robotic process automation, a bot, do stuff all the time. You guys have all been on websites where you chat to the bot. I see even DSTV here as one. And you can say, what's my problem, what's your error message, and it gives you a list of programmed responses. Now, obviously there's an ethical problem as well. At some point you're taking away maybe work from the people, but I think people need to change what they do, what skills they bring to the company. The ability to do repetitive work is not necessarily a skill. And humans can do higher level of activities. All right, so here's an interesting fact about artificial intelligence. So PwC say that by 2030, now 2030, the other day somebody said to me how far the 80s are away from today versus how far the 80s are away from the World War. And it's scary, right? 80 sounds like yesterday. I can still remember my long, and my grooves that I had. But by 2030, which is just around the corner, AI will contribute $15.7 trillion and have a 14.5% impact on the GDP of North America. Can you imagine that? So we in South Africa, we obviously need to wake up, because a 14% impact on the GDP is massive. It is a huge, huge thing. So the upside is it alleviates users from boring, monotonous, 24/7 work, but it can also learn to do something. So what I thought of doing maybe is we're going to be looking quickly at how do we do this in SAP. So if we want to do a bot, we're going to look at a use case, and I'm going to take you through that. And I'm fortunate enough to have a driver in the back, so I can drive hands-free like an autonomous car. So what I want to share with you here is, if you look at, this is just in the SAP Discovery Center. The SAP Discovery Center is a place where, just like the name says, you can discover applications. And there is stuff for ECC. It actually says ECC. Anyway, so when you look at this particular one, this is a process to approve your invoices automatically. So what does it do? The use case is why do I want to do this? The use case is basically, I want to post transactions into SAP, but I want something to go and read them and to pick up the data and do it automatically, right? So it will look, so there's a little bot. You've seen my bot before, that bot is pretty cool. So there's a little bot that will read your email, or a particular email. Then it will look at the attachment. Then it will open the attachment. Then it will see that the attachment is an invoice. Then it will extract data from that invoice, and then it will actually post it into SAP, right? So it scans your invoice attachments in Microsoft Outlook, the bot. And like I say, it works 24/7, so you can imagine Tansani can now, go to her grandchildren earlier every week. And then it applies AI capabilities to see what information is in there. So it can read the vendor, it can understand this is the material number, it can understand this is the purchase order number. Then, on that data that is extracted, and it can be, it does OCR, so it does optical character recognition, so it doesn't need to be a PDF that has readable information. It can actually look at an image. And then, what it does, it posts a provisional document in SAP. Right. So picture the process. I'm the vendor, I send my invoice, and I don't know, there must be a very big market for second-hand invoices, because all of our customers say, we never got your invoice. Can you send it again? Yes, they can sell it, but what are you going to do with it? Because they never seem to reach you. But anyway, so I send my invoice from my ERP system. In the old days, in the previous scenario, I could have done integration, right? But here, I actually just send a PDF. The bot sits there, gets the email, opens the attachment, see I'm the vendor, see the amount, and post it into S4. Okay. And then it learns. So this time it thought, there's two companies with the same name, it thought it was A, you can learn it, you can teach it, that it's actually company B. And next time it'll remember it. And it'll automatically, with machine learning and those sort of things, improve the accuracy of interpreting those things. Now, some employees learn very well, but not all of them learn very well. But this bot actually learns well. So let's quickly go down. I just want to show you what's inside one of these little packages. So what is the challenge? Like I said, somebody sends you a PDF, you've got to go read through it, you've got to go type it, you make a mistake, and so forth. You'll see on the right-hand side, there's a little business process flow. And you can see, I don't know if you can read, it's very small, but there's S4HANA on the right-hand side, that can be ECC as well. And then there's the business technology platform. And you can see there's a user outside sending it in, it interprets it, it posts it, the user reviews it, and the user releases the invoice. And then you can see what is the challenge, and then you can see what is the outcome. So the outcome of this is that invoice is in your ERP system. And if you go down a little bit further, so how do we get this to work? It sounds a little bit, oh, it says 30 minutes. Okay, then I need to move very quickly. Let's just scroll down quickly. And then, like a little Lego set, this is the building blocks that you're going to be needing to make that thing. And there's a little thing, you can estimate how long it takes and so forth. So let's go back to the presentation. Sorry, my clicker's on the original time, so there you guys almost have lunch. Let me quickly go through the last one, your application. So a lot of you say, okay, if all else fail, what do we do? We can basically say, let's build our own one. Now we can use some degenerate software to build it that maybe have more viruses than it has functionality. But SAP is moving to what they call a clean core. What does a clean core mean? It means it can't be a dumping ground of code. You know, when we do these moves, we find out 80% of the code hasn't been used in 10 years. It's just clogging everything up. And there's some security risks and stuff like that. So what this gives us is the ability to create our own code, our own applications, our own portals, and so forth. So sometimes you do need a secure, scalable solution. You know that SAP had the old portal technology and that sort of went away. Now they've got a thing called Build WorkZone. It's really, really cool. It's low code, no code, and basically it sits in there. So these are all the options. So you can use BTP with, it's got an ABAP stack in it. So ABAP in the cloud if you want. A build code, and then you can see you can have it on-premise or in-app extensibility. And then if you look at this one, this is basically a picture that shows all of these things live together, right? They're all essentially part of the same ecosystem. So on the left-hand side, we create our own apps. We can create mobile apps. It's got a mobile platform. So very quick, secure. You know, SAP stuff is pretty secure. Then there's the automation, the RPA stuff that we had, and then the Build WorkZone is we can make our own websites. So essentially, I'll give you a very quick use case. We have a customer. They sell wine, but they also store wine for customers. So I wanted an app where the customer can log in, see which wine is in they have, how long it's been there, and then they can request them to bring the wine to them. Now, I'm not talking about the wine that you drink. You know, this is like the main Bordeaux wine. Anyway, but what I want to show you is these things are now starting to interact. So AI with workflows, with websites, with automation, it's all starting to converge into one set of tools that can give you a solution that you want. All right, so you like my little my turbocharged DCC system? So my takeaway that I wanna say today is, if you cannot afford to buy the brand new car, you can be as quick as them and maybe look a little bit cooler, right? By using the BTP, the Business Technology Platform. I've tried to show you 3 little use cases today that you can apply, so you can integrate, you can automate, or you can build your own apps. And what I want to say is these things are reasonably affordable. So in South Africa, the basic integration suite is 16,000 a month. If you think that's a lot, try and put a server in a data center. You'll see it's not a lot. And you can build them, they can be future-proof, they can be modular, you can start small, build onto that. And in the end, you can have a car that's like that, and you can keep up with the rest of the guys until you're ready to make big transformational changes. Right, thank you for your time. Any questions? Right. Yes?
Martin, a good presentation. Maybe just some comments to add. You can't wait until 2040 to do this. There's like everything now, there's expiry date. And something like PIPO, to come back to Martin's point, you pay 22% license to that. So if you take that license and you compare that annually, 20% to the 16,000, and the fact that it's been deprecated in 2027, there's a reason to act now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I'm not saying go everything on the cloud forward, but this is actually PIPO is a really good use case for why you want something in the cloud, right? Why do you want people to connect to your data center? Let them connect to SAP is one, try hack it. They're much more secure. But that's a good case. You can keep your ERP on premise if you want to, but PIPO, the runway is running out. And when that runway runs out, it means the Java stack that goes with it is no longer supported. It means the security protocols that runs with it is no longer supported. So you guys, there's a cost-effective alternative. The sooner you get into it, and I really like your point. It's a very, very good point. And the point I really want to make here, it doesn't need to break the bank. You can try small little innovations, and you can have huge impact. Like I said, of integration, it is the thing that keeps on giving you ROI all the time. Any accountant will like it. If they don't, I'll help you make the math. Any other questions or comments, or thanks for that. Alright guys, if you have any questions, I'll share. There's a lot of references at the end of this where you can read more about it. I can also send you some documents or white papers and whatever the case may be. Thank you very much.
Thanks.